All right, I want to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of Murphysboro Community Unit District 186. And Mrs. Hines, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Beavers?
Here.
Mrs. Brazel?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mrs. Evaldi? Here. Mr. Rundy?
Here. Item 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Evaldi, would you be so kind?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. Dr. Evers, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as printed? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is the approval of the consent agenda, which consists of District 186 regular board meeting minutes dated September the 28th, 2021, District 186 budget hearing minutes dated September 28th, 2021, Tri-County minutes dated 9/8/2021, Tri-County bills for October of 2021, applications and reports, and I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, and I failed to mention to the board that Mr. Bain will not be in attendance tonight, as we can see so. Item number 6 is the approval of District 186 bills for October of 2021. I'll open the floor for any questions of Mrs. Bush on the bills. Or we'll entertain a motion to approve as presented.
I motion to approve the bills.
Second,
Second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Brazel?
Yes.
Mr. Beavers?
Yeah.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Rundy?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 7 is communications.
We have one. Dear Mr. Hernan, please accept this letter as formal notification that I am resigning from my position as the Beta Club sponsor for MMS. I took over the Beta Club last year because I had previous experience as a Beta sponsor, and at that time no one else had applied. After taking on that role, I quickly realized that the MMS Beta Club is more of a time commitment than I had anticipated. This year, my younger son is a senior and my middle son is a freshman in college. I want to ensure that I have the free time available to be present and active in both of their school-related functions. I have a folder ready to hand off to the next sponsor, as I would like to step down as sponsor as soon as possible. Please let me know if you have any questions. Kelly Carpenter, Murphysboro Middle School.
And I will entertain a motion to accept that resignation.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, and we thank her for her service in that capacity. Item number 8 is the fishbowl items. I don't see a fishbowl, so I'm going to assume we had none. Item number 9 is the Freedom of Information Act request, and I see that we had none. Item number 10 is the recognition of the audience. The Board of Education welcomes the audience to make public or employee comments. The board has set aside time in the agenda specifically for this purpose. Pursuant to Board Policy 2.230, each speaker shall be limited to a 5-minute presentation. Please be aware that while this is the time for the public to express its opinions and/or concerns, the board may or may not comment regarding public presentations. If a matter of public comment warrants discussion or action of the Board of Education, such discussion or action will be added to the agenda of a future meeting. Are there any public concerns? Are there any employee concerns? Very good. We will move to the next item, which is the old business. Item number 1 is the financial and COVID update. Dr. Evers.
Just briefly, this is the lowest week for the county's rolling average in the last 8 weeks. We are under 70 new cases per week of COVID, so the numbers are starting to go down. That's community-wise, that's Jackson County numbers, so 70 new cases, less than 70 cases last week. When we started the school year was over 360, so things are starting to move in the right direction. So within the school context, we're doing as many test days as we possibly can, so trying to keep kids to the extent that we can possibly in school, so I think it's gone pretty smoothly.
Thank you. Let me ask the board. Dr. Evers and I had a conversation about this item today. When this was first put on the agenda, the financial part of it was back when the state did not have a budget. And we weren't sure that we were going to even be able to stay open financially based upon the money that we had. So that's when the former superintendent put this into the agenda to update the board, update the public on what was going on, etc. The COVID was put in whenever, obviously, all of this mess started. Dr. Evers, as the board knows, sends the board the numbers every week, and it's also posted on the website. So my question to the board is, do we think we still need this in here, since the information is actually getting out there? And our thought was, if there was anything unusual, then yes, it should be brought to the board, but, so I'm just gonna throw it out. Do we think we still need it, yes or no?
I say remove it. Both of them.
Okay.
I assume anything pertinent we would,
We're gonna get it anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely gonna get
It's
it,
gonna be a new item anyway.
a new item or. I mean,
Just
if
enough,
it's
just,
anything
it'll be
unusual.
informational only if you have to update us on something that. couldn't have been
And
said.
what I would most likely do is put it under old business, so when we come out, if there's old business, we'll talk about like any of those things that might, if it's not gonna be an actual action item, we'll talk about it during old business before we adjourn. Anything that would be new or extraordinary or an update on, and I can always have, Ms. Hines add it to the grant if we need to do an update on like
Sure.
where we're standing on ESSER grants or things like that, so.
All right, very good. We can drop it. Thank you very much. Next item is the approval of the maintenance van bid, which were opened this morning. The board was sent the results, and I believe we only had one person to bid it. It was Vogler Ford in the amount of $41,322, but that did not include
Correct.
the government fleet number, which drops that figure by around $7,000, correct?
Right, to $34,695 is what will be eligible for that rate, so.
All right, I'll open the floor to any questions from the board. Or we'll entertain a motion to approve the bid as presented.
I make a motion to approve this presented.
And a second? Mrs. Hines?
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mrs. Brazel?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
yes,
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. Let's move into new business. Item number 1 is the permission to bid for the Murphysboro Middle School Big Gym Roof. It's enclosure number 1. And the administration passed around pictures of some splits that are happening on the top of that roof right now. So I'll entertain or open the floor to the board for any questions.
It's about 14 gashes between 2 inches and 16 inches that they've noted, and so they're repaired. When Darren had a conversation with Jim Seifert, the building materials for roofing with that membrane type system take a lead time of 10 to 12 months right now. It's pretty staggering, so I mean, we're gonna have to work really diligently. You know, he said that they'll stay on top of it, stay on the roof, make sure that they're patching and keeping those as watertight as possible, but the importance to going out to bid now so that we can get on the list for the actual replacement of that roof is really, really important since the lead times are so significant.
does health, life, safety funds tied to this in any way? Will be tied to it?
We could, but we don't have those funds. It would need we could sell bonds to do that, but we're gonna try to do that otherwise through all the magic of bond proceeds that we have left for the middle school, and we can't use ESSER on that, but if we move some other things around, we should be in better shape.
Did the rest of the roof get looked at on the building?
The remainder was replaced in those 3 phases of the middle school project, so that was the only
That was
remaining
the only part of the roof that wasn't?
roof that was not touched in the last 3 phases, so it just recently started to show such significant, where Darren thought it might have had a little bit of time left on it, but I mean, it just, within the last month, has just shown all those gaps and tears, and we all know that just like we had to do the replacement of the small gym floor a year ago, we can't be in a position of having leaks over a hardwood floor because you get the warping and the bowing and I just
didn't wanna make too small of a circle on the roof, you know, if more roof needed to be looked at the same time, but,
Right, that will be the full replacement of the large gym.
okay.
And should cover us for, you know, easily 20 years, so.
When would this work be done?
I was told not to be optimistic if we went out to bid right away, potentially late summer. And so I mean, with the understanding that we'll put it in the bid specs that as soon as it can be installed. They did a great job doing the roofing overhead, so if there's some magic that happens and they can get that specific system in, roofing system, the membrane, in earlier, they can start doing it immediately because they did the work overhead last year while the students were in session. Yes, it was A/B schedule, but once they got used to having kind of the pitter patter of construction feet above, there really was no major interruption. And that's a gymnasium, so it's a kind of a louder, bigger, more open space. So if they, by some miracle, they can get it before the school years, as soon as the materials arrive, you know, letting them install. But they said conservatively to expect anywhere from July to next October. It's just at least a 10-month lead time right now.
Based upon that lead time, is their estimation of the cost of $375,000, including the fact there's probably gonna be some price increases?
They said to expect between 5 and 9% per month increase because the roofing, many of the companies that produce that roofing type system have gone under during the pandemic, and so they're working with just a handful, like globally, to provide. So it's a pretty significant issue. So the estimate,
Is this figure based upon today's cost then, or that factor right there?
it's not with the built-in,
Okay.
like the escalator. No, I mean there's potential significantly higher than that number just because construction materials just continue to grow exponentially.
So will our contractors bid the project based on that known factor that they're gonna have that escalator? Cause
We can't, yes, they're gonna have to give us a real number, so they're gonna have to weigh the risks and say, this is the number that we know we can do with what they've known from the last 18 months during the pandemic of what construction materials have done. I mean, we see it from plywood to, you know, sheetrock, everything has shown such a significant margin, you know, I mean, plywood's
That's
3 times.
that's any bid process.
Correct, so,
You bid on today's prices with the hope that it stays the same or goes down.
right.
So, okay, any other questions from the board?
So we're looking, you know, possibly 10 months until it gets fixed. Are we patching what's there currently?
They've done what they can to repair. If it gets to be a situation where it degrades, we may have to talk to the roofing company about doing more of a professional patch job. Right now, they're doing what they can. Mr. Ripley and Mr. Beck are doing what they can to get it weather tight. I will likely, if it exceeds the threshold and we have to do something, you know, pull in a joiner or someone to come in and look at the roof and say we need patching before winter happens, we may. I mean, it's hopefully when we do the pre-bid and then the bid opening, they'll be clear about the timelines, and if it's far out, we'll probably have to ask them to get on the roof and see whether or not we have the life on that roof. So
could this have been done, was this like just wear and tear? Or was some of this potentially could have been done whenever HVAC systems installed or any of the work that's been done on the big gym?
Not that I've heard from anyone that it was caused. I mean, this is damage that they've seen even since summer work on those units when they do the
How old is that roof?
over 20, I would say.
Oh, I know it's way over that.
Yeah.
It's well over 20.
We
We couldn't
did-
find an exact date on the.
We
picture.
did roof work on the rest of the middle school probably 10 years ago, maybe 12. And we didn't do it then because it still had life left on the big gym, so we didn't include that in that project. And we did Carruthers roof, I think, at the same time, so.
Okay. Anyone else? Then I'll entertain a motion to give permission to administration to bid the middle school gym roof. And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mrs. Brazel?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 2 is a permission to bid for Carruthers HVAC and Automation, which is enclosure number 2 in your packet, and I'll open the floor for questions from the board, and it appears that this project will be funded with the ESSER's 3 grant money.
Just looking at remind me again, the office space, 3 offices, what are those gonna be used for?
That will be that's a different project. That was the one that we've already approved. This is the one that we're discussing right now is Carruthers HVAC and automation. So that's just to replace the rooftop units and to do the automation of those systems. We did include the renderings of that we approved a few months back because we approved McIlvain's roof being replaced and the units being replaced, as well as a 1,600-foot addition to McIlvain to remove the modular. So it'll be, yeah, that's the removal of the modular system in the back, so.
Any other questions from the board? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve giving administration the permission to bid for the Carruthers HVAC and Automation.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Beavers? Mrs. Brazel?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. We have a need to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 2 of the Open Meetings Act, 5 Illinois Compiled Statutes 120/2C to review the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee to determine its validity.
And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mrs. Brazel?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries.